Today I'm talking to Scott Rich from SentinelOne about the biggest endpoint security challenges today and how to build a successful endpoint protection strategy. I'm Marisa, and this is the It Factor. Let's explore pro tips that make lean IT teams unstoppable. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Scott, and your role at SentinelOne.
Let's see, I have been at SentinelOne for 6 years. I have been in IT for 25 years, and I have been in security for 20. So you could say I'm quite a bit long in the tooth. I've been in the industry for a very long time. Most of my experience and career has been spent in the trenches, both doing incident response, security engineering, security automation.
Can you walk us through the evolution of endpoint security and what has changed the most in the last 3 to 5 years?
When NIMDA and the I love you virus became very prevalent, it got so bad that you could not even connect a server, that as soon as the operating system booted up and as soon as that network driver got loaded, bam, you were infected that fast. And there was nothing you could do about it. As these threats have kind of evolved, the protection landscape has had to evolve as well. What we're able to accomplish now with the less processing power and the less operational overhead impact, as well as identity protection, it's staggering what we're able to do now.
What do you see as the biggest challenge in securing endpoints today?
As environments become more complex, every time that you install a new piece of software on an endpoint, you're introducing additional risk into your environment. So as we're expected to do more, we're inadvertently increasing the amount of risk that we are having to now mitigate as security practitioners.
So AI is a big buzzword right now. What applications of AI have you seen in IT that are overrated, and which ones should people look out for?
Behavioral analytics are very good at poring over large amounts of data and seeing patterns where it would almost be impossible for a human to do it. AI is great at basically coming out and saying, this is wrong. AI is not a cure-all for everything. And the more that you try to get AI to do, the worse it gets. The ability for AI to take the place of a skilled human being is still up for debate. And that's mainly because AIs still lack a very human quality, and that's wisdom. Wisdom with experience, wisdom with being able to see nuance in things. Whereas with processing, the algorithms take data at its face value, okay? Case in point, for example, AI can't tell the difference between an article on The Onion versus an article made by Reuters or some other type of news source. Whereas a human being would look at that and say, yeah, that's absurd.
Can you explain how AI and machine learning enhances endpoint security beyond traditional signature-based methods?
AI has allowed us to key in on behaviors, right? Chains of events. So it's not just a matter of you downloaded a piece of software and it's now on the file system, and then it unpacks itself and establishes persistence and it installs a low-level keylogger and it reaches back to a C2 and says, hey, I've been installed. Well, that's how chat programs get installed. Is that malicious? No, maybe not. Depends on the chat program, right? It could be something from a threat actor that's been masqueraded. This happens in mobile security all the time. But now, let's say that same chat program all of a sudden reaches out to a hostile government, or it starts encrypting files on the file system, or any number of different malicious things. Then even if it's never been seen before, it's using a technique and a tactic that's never been used. The agent is able to key in, or the service is able to key in and look at all these events in context. Really, at the end of the day, the name of the game is speed and efficiency.
How do you see the future of endpoint security evolving with hybrid and remote workforces, which is commonplace today?
Now you've got, especially if people are using BYOD for accessing work-related materials, well, now you could get fooled with an SMS text message. They could have installed an app on their phone that is malicious. These banking Trojans get installed all the time. We see it in the news at least once a month, because getting data off of an endpoint or a device or a service is generally very easy. It was what you do with it later on that's very difficult. And that's where you can have AI, machine learning, behavioral analytics, large language models for querying, all of these different tools at our disposal now to rapidly identify behavior. Now, once we're able to do that, then the technology for endpoint and mobile devices and other devices that are notoriously difficult to protect and services they can catch up.
You mentioned the human element and how we're not prepared to eliminate it. How do you balance automated threat containment with the need for human intervention?
So one of the things that AI is also not really great at yet is coming up with something brand new and saying, you know what, this would be really cool if we could do this. And that's that human element that is so rare and it's so valuable. And it's something that AI, in my opinion, just is not ready to replace just yet. It's that fire, that passion, that creativity that stems from all of it and the excitement. It's so hard to digitize and emulate. And that's something that will never be taken away from humans. I just don't ever think that would ever happen. At least I certainly hope not.
In your opinion, what are 3 actionable tips that organizations or IT teams can implement immediately to improve their endpoint security posture?
First and foremost, step 1 is get to know your universe. Be proactive, right? Begin with the end in mind. If you don't have a full fundamental understanding of what are your devices? What services are they running? What does your inventory look like? Without that, you can't even begin to understand what your real threat exposure really is. And then once you understand your threat exposure, then you can finally start addressing and mitigating these risks. The truth of the matter is that you can't buy security. There's never been a solution that I've ever seen in 25 years of doing this that if you install it, you're protected, done. You can wash my hands and walk off. And then finally, training. I make the joke all the time that if people ever quit clicking on silly things, we'd all be out of work. And I will tell you that 25 years ago, people opened up emails they shouldn't have. They installed programs they shouldn't have. That behavior hasn't changed in a quarter of a century. I don't think it's going to. The best what we can do is lock down unnecessary services, don't give people unnecessary permissions, and training. Keep that training going. Reinforce these ideas of secure operating principles. And its security programs are multi-layered, and you have to address all of these individual issues to mitigate the most risk. And the human element behind the keyboard is always going to be your biggest risk.
For IT folks looking to adopt or improve their endpoint protection strategy, what key metrics or indicators should they track to measure the effectiveness of their solution?
Well, I like to start with the low-hanging fruit, and that is uptime. You deploy your endpoint security agents out there, and are they running? Are they doing their job? Is this something that you're going to have to babysit a lot? Is it going to take a whole lot of care and feeding? And that kind of segues into my next point, which is the operational overhead. The false positive rate, the usual KPIs for managing any kind of a SOC, right? So, for example, the detection to response time delta, and then the response to resolution. Also, the false positive rate, and more importantly, the false negative rate, which should always be 0.
What is your spiciest IT hot take at the moment?
Here's a hot take. People talk about skills gap a lot, okay? But no one ever seems to really elaborate what that really means. And I've come up with a very shorthand way of working this out, is that finding security people is pretty easy. Finding security people that are any good is hard. Finding security people that are any good that you'd put in front of a customer is very difficult.